So I got in a little bit of trouble after my last video. It was titled, "Was Kawhi Leonard better than LeBron before the NBA shutdown?" Now, this is honestly the first video I've done in a very long time, and I was surprised to see all of the comments that I received. Some were good, some were bad, some ranged from the casual LeBron lover to, your LeBron hater, or the people who were neutral. There's been a lot of comments, but one has caught my eye, and it was by this guy named Blue Bolt. Blue Bolt assessed my entire video. He didn't have a problem with it, and I think that he's a great person, honestly. I think he's a cool dude. He loves politics. He loves basketball, just like I do. And we kind of had a little bit of a disagreement on the comments of my last video. He was trying to explain to me that LeBron James is a top 5 player. Now that I start to think of all of the players who have graced the NBA, it has occurred to me that LeBron James isn't a top 5 player. And I've been deluded by the sports media into believing that he was. Obvious suspects, your Brian Windhorst, your Shannon Sharps, your Kendrick Perkins, and now Draymond Green for some reason. No, it was mostly because of shows like First Take and Undisputed and First Things First. All of these shows that put individuals who have no standing in basketball, honestly, they couldn't tell a pick and roll from a pick and pop if you asked them to. They couldn't name a single play that is run in a normal NBA offense. These individuals have no idea what they're talking about most of the time. It's purely conjecture and subjective perspective. That is all these shows are. And what they'll do on occasion is come on and bloviate about how great LeBron James is. Not just because of his basketball prowess, but how great of a person he is. And if you were to ever say anything that was rude, with threats, anger, animosity, and just rudeness, this stuff has gotten out of control. And Blue Bolt is not guilty of this. Unfortunately, Blue Bolt is only a product of the environment that we are in currently. The product of this environment that says LeBron James is king, and if you have a problem with that, then you are wrong. Now, I'm a stats guy. I know that they think that we're obsolete and that you could see talent without looking at numbers, but numbers are extremely important when looking at who is really in the top 5 discussion. Well, obviously Michael Jordan is there. You guys saw The Last Dance. We talked about this before. The podcast went over this stringently, and we all named our favorite players and who's in the GOAT conversation for us and who the GOAT is. And yeah, my opinion has changed since the first time we had this discussion back in 2017. But back then, my GOAT was LeBron James. And that's because at that point, it was still fresh in our minds. LeBron had just come off a 3-1 deficit, and he beat a 73-9 team. It was all LeBron, 100% LeBron. Nobody else was on that team. It was just LeBron James. And LeBron said it himself. Once he accomplished that, he considered himself the greatest of all time. Well, that's quite the presumption for a man who also said he would win 8 championships with the Miami Heat. And then the second the San Antonio Spurs wiped the floor with you, you jump ship again. But we're not going to get into that. Let's get into my argument as to why LeBron is not a top 5 player. First of all, Blue Bolt told me that he believes that the argument I made that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, and a few others may be over LeBron in this argument. Of course, they have the stats, they have the championships, and they have most of the accolades that LeBron has. But I think the one thing that really set me off, that made me want to make this entire rant, was when he said Bill Russell was under LeBron as far as legacies go.
Russell was the most successful, and he understood how to make his team win. 11 world championships in 13 years. Beat that, Michael Jordan. LeBron is not going to come close. Come on. The effect that you have on the game is how you should be judged. Bill Russell affected the game. You couldn't get a shot near the basket. He terrorized everybody for 13 years.
Bill did it in a variety of ways as far as blocking shots, keeping them in bounds, running the floor. We just try to make everybody around us better, and sometimes you got to be creative about it. The bar was set very high when we got there, and all we could do is just do our best to win championships and continue to honor Bill Russell.
And that's when I lost it, because how dare you speak such blasphemy to someone who's a basketball savant like myself? You're saying that LeBron James's legacy is somehow elevated over Bill Russell? Do you guys know who Bill Russell is? Do you guys know what he has done for the game of basketball? What this man has accomplished? The hurdles he had to jump over, the amounts of racism, the amounts of vitriol, the types of challenges he was met with as a black player. Not only as a black player in a white league, but as a black player coach in a white league, who was successful, who won all the time, had the killer instinct, had the defensive prowess, the rebounding technique. He was so good that we often forget why the MVP trophy is named after Bill Russell. You guys are so quick to jump on the newfound thing, or what's cool nowadays, or what's the hottest new player, that you guys often forget exactly who laid the groundwork for you guys to even admire these players. They did the same thing to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I think a great deal of his ability on the basketball court, the greatest offensive force I had ever seen.
Dominant post presence at his position, and that's exactly what he did. Now, LeBron went to go train with Hakeem too. Don't see too many of Hakeem moves in LeBron's arsenal. I see his patented spin move, and that's pretty much it. So if we're going to talk about skill, I believe Kobe Bryant is the most skilled player to ever grace a basketball court. But that's not what our argument was. Our argument was, who is top 5? Now, I'm going to list to you my top 5 in order, so each and every person knows exactly where I'm starting from and exactly where I'm coming from. Number 1, the greatest player of all time is Bill Russell. And if you want to argue with me, go look at the stats. Go look at what this man has accomplished, not only for African Americans, but for basketball players in general. Individuals who can pride themselves on not only being the best player, but also being the best coach. He was a player coach, an individual who played his heart out and coached the team through their difficult times. He was the man who did it all. Like, literally, everyone says, well, Jordan did everything. LeBron does everything. Bill Russell literally did everything. And how easily we forget. Now, number 2. The second person on my list is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. There is no way anybody can take anything away from what this man has done for basketball, from what this man has done to basketball, and to show such consistency as a winner. There is not a single blemish on his resume. Number 3. You guys knew it was coming. It was bound to. Michael Jeffrey Jordan, number 3 of all time. I know everybody's looking at this list. Oh my God, he knows nothing about basketball. He's just a prisoner of the old time. He's an old head. I'm 26 years old, people. My basketball livelihood started when I was young watching Jordan play. God, he was amazing. She was so good. But I was not a Bulls fan. I was a Spurs fan because I also got to see the great David Robinson play. Now, David Robinson may not be as top of the charts of like great centers that the NBA has had, but gosh, was he good. He was inspiring to me. Just watching him play was just amazing. But he still will never make my top 5. Even though there's such a connection with him and Tim Duncan and my Spurs, I can't disrespect the legends who laid the groundwork for the game. So number 3 is Michael Jordan. Number 4 might rattle some feathers, might make some individuals mad. But number 4 is Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bean Bryant, without a doubt, even after everything that has happened with his passing and all of the pain that we've all felt, we have to acknowledge that he was the closest to Michael Jordan. Now, if Michael Jordan is the GOAT to some people, you need to understand what you're saying about Kobe. If you're calling Michael Jordan the GOAT and Kobe was the closest to Jordan, at the very least, he's number 2. So, in my opinion, he's number 4 if you look at the landscape of the entirety of the NBA. Bill Russell was the individual who broke all of the barriers. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar took it a step further. You had Magic and Bird, individuals who pushed the game to another level, and then Jordan shattered all of what they could have ever dreamed the game of being. So, with that in mind, I give you number 5, Magic Johnson. The reason Magic Johnson is number 5 on my list is because his gameplay, the way that he plays the game, completely changed the standard of how point guards run today. He changed the game. A 6'9" point guard who could play all 5 positions, can run in traffic. Downhill, he is a monster, a terror. He had post work. He was able to run an offense. He was able to distribute the ball. One of the greatest playmakers of all time. And he was a champion, a winner. These are 5 players that I will always rank above LeBron James. Not only because of social impact, but because they, without a doubt, check all of the boxes for being the best players of their time and of their era. Right now, LeBron James isn't the best player in his era. There are numerous individuals who I think are better than LeBron James. LeBron James isn't even the best player on his team currently. And I'm sorry if that hurts people's feelings. I'm looking at this objectively. This is the same individual that in 2017 said that LeBron James was the GOAT. But that was me falling prey to recency bias. And I apologize if my opinion in any way hurts anybody, but that's just how I feel. And that takes nothing away from LeBron. That takes nothing away from any of the other amazing players that have graced the NBA. But if we're going to be honest with ourselves, if we're going to say, all right, well, championships matter, and stats matter, and social impact matters, and being able to call yourself a killer when it matters the most, if these are the types of requirements that we have, then LeBron doesn't check all of those boxes. Not as much as Bill Russell, not as much as Michael Jordan, not as much as Kobe Bryant. And this isn't me sitting back as a hater. Please don't believe that. Because we all know that at some point in time, you knew who the best was. And if you still think that being the best has to do with how the media makes you look, then why are we looking at stats when we could just say, well, this guy makes us feel good, so he must be the best? I just can't get with the concept that the players that have done so much for basketball can just be disregarded and just forgotten so easily. So, number 1, Bill Russell. Number 2, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Number 3, Michael Jordan. Number 4, Kobe. And number 5, Magic Johnson. Thank you for your time.